The other day, I started a series of videos exploring the National Geographic Hobby Edition Rock Tumbler, and I'm going to continue with Phase 2 today and the cleanup from Phase 1. So hopefully those rocks turned out good. Let's take a look. The instructions recommend rinsing the grit off the rocks using a garden hose. However, it's still winter here at my house, so I'm going to use this bowl with the strainer and this cup of water to do the job. They also don't recommend using the sink, as you can get the grit down the sink and it can jam it up. So the first thing we're going to do is unscrew the top of the container again. Pull the lid out. There, now I've popped it off. And they usually recommend putting this knob back on. This is just like when we started step 1. Ooh, and the grit is kind of grimy. Oh, fun. All right, here goes. I could see why they don't want you reusing this stuff. It's pretty nasty. Might have to get another cup in a minute. I mean, the things we do for science, right? I mean, check those out. Those are starting to look like smooth rocks. I'm impressed after just the first phase. I'll lay those out so you can see them here in a minute. Well, there you go. Stage 1 completed and the rocks are cleaned. Now I got to take care of the mess. So just like any other tool, it's important to get them cleaned after use. So I've taken these and cleaned them and dried them. And so these will be ready for batch number 2 or step number 2. And I've also taken and strained the rocks. And I'm just kind of putting them on paper towels and getting them dry. But these are the rocks that we got off of the first stage. And some of these are looking pretty darn good. I mean, you honestly, depending on what you're trying to get, could stop right where you're at. And these would be fine. They're smooth and everything. They're just not like super polished. But yeah, I'm impressed with how this works. During phase 1, we just threw the whole bag of rocks in the tumbler and then put some water and some grit and then got it going. This time I think you can be a little more selective and put in the rocks that you really want to tumble. For instance, there's some really tiny rocks in these kits. I don't know how well these would tumble any further, so I think I might leave some of those out. But let's go ahead and put the rocks that we do want in there. All these are definitely ones that we're going to want. After starting phase 2, I was watching a channel on YouTube called Agate Ariel, and she mentioned that it makes sense to actually keep those tiny rocks in with the larger rocks. This helps to get a more balanced tumble. Also, she mentioned that there's these silicone beads you can buy that are specifically for rock tumbling that will help to ease the rocks' edges as they chip away at each other. So we're done with stage 1 and we got 3 stages to go. I'm going to set aside 3 and 4. We're going to take this grit, medium grit, and we're going to put it inside the tumbler. And then just like in step 1, we're going to fill it just above the rocks. Okay, I think that's a good level. Plop the lid back on. Make sure we get a good seal. And once we tighten this bad boy, this will be ready to go right back on the tumbler. Just a note, the second stage in the instruction manual says 6 to 8 days. There's only 7 days on this dial here. So I'm just going to set it for 7 days That's kind of in the middle of that. It should be enough. And I'm going to check back in a few days. Please hit that like button and that subscribe button. And if you'd like to see the first stage of this process and the setup for the rock tumbler, check out this video.